Alright, so I'm going to be starting a new series on my channel, which is tier listing weapon categories. And the two ways we're going to categorize these weapons are what weapon class they're in, so like assault rifles, SMGs, and shotguns, and what game they're from, so Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, or BO6. With that being said, let's just get right into the ranking. And for our first guns, we have the Black Ops 6 assault rifles, and we're going to start with the XM4. Now, I believe the XM4 goes into the usable tier, and here's why. On paper, the gun has some of the lowest recoil for any of the assault rifles in Black Ops 6. It also has a pretty forgiving fire rate, so if you miss a lot of your shots, you can very easily get back on target and continue shooting them quickly. And as well as that, you can go all the way up to a 100 round mag, which means that you can spray for a very long time without having to reload. But that's about all the upsides with the XM4, because this gun used to be the most meta gun back in Season 1. They completely butchered this gun, and it's now basically unusable. It has very slow mobility, pretty bad damage range, like probably some of the worst damage range for any assault rifles, and its bullet velocity isn't amazing. When you're within that like 20-meter range, you're like, hold on, the XM4 is like actually really good, and then you get past 30 meters and you're like, oh yeah, this is like the worst assault rifle in the game. It just completely craps out on the damage, and it just isn't really worth using, although it is usable if you do like the gun and you don't really have many guns leveled up. Next up, we have the AK-47, and I'm also gonna put this gun in the usable tier. Just before we get to our next gun though, I might quickly rename this tier. Okay, I think I prefer that because I think what I had there before, it wouldn't fit in, but I think the AK perfectly fits into this tier, which is good but not meta contending. This gun used to be an absolute fryer when Verdansk first came back. It was insane on its time to kill. It was a perfect sniper support weapon, but now it's been nerfed and tuned down a little bit, and it's, you know, not meta contending, but it is a pretty decent gun. It's definitely not going to be your long range assault rifle because its recoil is pretty bouncy, and it probably has the most visual recoil out of any of the Black Ops 6 assault rifles. But in terms of damage and like bullet velocity and especially mobility, it's a pretty fast weapon. It's actually not too bad, so it's a pretty viable sniper support. And we're also going to be categorizing these weapons in what they're best at doing. So if a weapon like, for example, the AK and the FFAR are best for sniper supports, then we're going to be ranking them based off how good they are at being sniper supports and not long range assault rifles like other assault rifles jobs are to be. But anyway, the AK does a pretty good job at being a sniper support at close range, although you're probably going to get beat by SMGs like the LC-10 that are just better movement wise, mobility wise, and also time to kill wise. But it's actually a pretty viable gun, so if you like how the AK feels and you already have it leveled up, then it's definitely a usable gun. Next up, we have the AMS. Now the AMS is a pretty decent assault rifle. I think I would also put it in the same tier as the AK, which is good but not meta contending. The gun has very low recoil, but only a 60 round mag, which is fine for most assault rifles, but for a gun like the AMS that has a pretty high and forgiving fire rate, that 60 round can go down pretty quick. And this thing can be a bit of a hit marker machine, especially if someone has spawn protection on Rebirth Island. You're just not going to be frying people out the sky. But it's a pretty low recoil and easy to use gun, and its mobility in terms of like ADS speed is actually pretty good. But its damage is just not there, unfortunately, compared to other assault rifles, but it's definitely not a bad gun, so I think it fits perfectly in the good but not meta contending. Now, unfortunately, up to this part of the video, I actually somehow forgot to include the GPR in my tier list, so you will not see the GPR in the rest of the tier list until right at the end of the video, but I will say where it's meant to go, and it's definitely in the top tier. And there's two reasons why I'd put it in the top category, and one, because there's actually a pay-to-win blueprint right now, which if you have Xbox Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, you will actually have this blueprint, which is the Jungle Ground blueprint. And this blueprint basically makes it so if you put any site, especially this one in the build right here, it basically zooms in the housing of the site way more than any other gun in the game, and it basically reduces the visual recoil so much. It just makes it so much easier just to shoot in general. It does look really weird at first, and it almost looks like a bit of a disadvantage of like the scope hitting your face constantly, but it honestly does make the gun feel so much better, especially on keyboard and mouse. And the second reason is just the consistency. This gun just has a very easy recoil pattern, a very good fire rate that's not too fast but not too slow, and its time to kill is very competitive. Honestly, if you guys aren't using the GPR, especially if you have that Jungle Ground blueprint, then you are missing out, because this gun just honestly feels so good and consistent to use. And even though this gun is meant for a long range build, it actually does still have pretty fast mobility in terms of ADS speed and all of that, so it just feels great to use. So if you guys haven't used the GPR yet, definitely give it a try, because I honestly think this thing is is up there. And next up, we have the Model L. I think the Model L also goes into the same tier. The gun just unfortunately has a bit too much kick for it to be as viable, but its damage is pretty good. But unfortunately, with only having a 50 round instead of 60 round like other assault rifles, its damage per mag isn't too different to the other assault rifles. But it also has a really good bullet velocity. I think being able to go up to 1400 meters a second if you build it fully for bullet velocity or something crazy like that. So it can be a very good hit scanny AR. But yeah, the recoil does kick a bit too much. So even if you were to build it out all for bullet velocity to be like a full hit scan gun, being able to hit those shots from that far away ain't gonna be that easy. Overall, the Model L isn't bad, but it's just other guns that do beat it out in working in a similar way, so it's just not really worth it. Oh, and by the way, we're also ranking all of these weapons based off strictly their 5 attachment builds. I will give an 8 attachment build, but I am only going to be basing it off their 5 attachment builds, as 90% of the time when you use these weapons, you're only going to be having the 5 attachment versions of them. Next up, we have the Goblin. Now, I'm kind of debating whether I want to put this in the usable tier or just the don't use tier, because I think don't use is kind of giving it a little bit of disservice because it isn't that bad, but I honestly do think it is worse than a gun like the XM4. I will put it in the usable tier, but I will say the Goblin is just not really worth using. It's a tap fire gun with a pretty moderate tap fire rate, but it's not really worth using because you have to constantly spam the trigger, which can throw off your aim, and it kind of just makes it harder to aim with a gun like that. And overall, there's just better semi-auto weapons even after the FFAR and the DM10 got nerfed. I think there's still better semi-auto weapons to use, and the Goblin just doesn't really feel that good to use. But I definitely wouldn't call it terrible, and I do think you can, you know, get some kills with it if you do like how it feels. But if you don't have it leveled up or anything like that, I wouldn't bother going for it. Next up, we have the AS Val. I am putting this gun in the meta. This gun is so underrated, man. I think this might be the best sniper support weapon or close to. Its time to kill is honestly insane. If you go and crunch the numbers, it's not like that much better than other assault rifles, but when you're in game and you feel it out, the higher fire rate really makes this gun just feel like an absolute laser beam. And its mobility is honestly pretty good for assault rifles. I honestly think this thing can contend with SMGs pretty confidently at close range. It's got a little bit of recoil with the build I'm showing here, but you can change it to like a horizontal grip, for example, because the side-to-side recoil past that 40-50 meter range does make it a bit hard to shoot from range, but it is your close range sniper support weapon, so you're not exactly trying to beam people from that far. And next up, we have the Cipher. This is easily the best assault rifle right now. This gun just has almost no recoil, just very, very slight vertical recoil that's so easy to control. 60 round mag with a slow fire rate, which means its damage per mag is really good, and its time to kill is just insane. This gun really just does feel like a whole tier above every other assault rifle right now. It just feels so good to use, and if you haven't tried the Cipher since the more recent buffs, then you need to try it because this gun is actually insane now. Probably the best assault rifle right now. And now we have the assault rifle that just fell from grace, which is the Krig-c. I would still put this weapon in the meta. Even though it's not top 3 now like it was a couple weeks ago, they really haven't killed it off that much. It's still a pretty good weapon. I think the 2 biggest problems is now that it only has a 60 round mag, although it still has a slow fire rate like the Cipher, so 60 round isn't too bad, but 70 was better when we had that. But the gun still has pretty easy to control recoil for a bit until it starts getting a bit too shaky on the side to side. That's something the Cipher doesn't have, which is what makes it so much better. And I think time to kill wise, the Cipher is just a little bit better than the Krig-c. But the Krig-c still feels really good to use, still has pretty good mobility and pretty quick reload speed as well. It's overall still a very good weapon. It's just not the best of the best anymore. And next up, we have the AAX. I think the AAX is pretty similar to the Krig-c. It's got pretty easy to control recoil, 60 round mag with a slow fire rate, so basically the same damage per mag. Got very good bullet velocity, same as the Model L, where you can build this thing to have a lot of bullet velocity. And overall, it's just a pretty solid AR. I would kind of put it in between these 2 tiers right here, if I'm being honest, but I think it's more leaning towards this way since I don't have a tier in between. I would say that the Cipher and the Krig definitely do its role of long-range assault rifles a bit better than the AAX, but just under, I think the AAX does edge it out. And then our second to last, we have the Kilo. I would probably put the Kilo in the good but not meta contending. This gun is a very, very low recoil assault rifle that has a pretty moderately fast fire rate, so it's pretty forgiving if you miss a couple shots. It's just like the Kilo that we all love and remember from Warzone 1, a pretty solid, consistent gun that will never let you down, but it's never really gonna shine past the like meta. I think it's honestly pretty in line with the AAX and the Kilo here. Maybe in a future video I might change change these tiers up a little more so I can have it in between tier, because I think that might balance out this a bit better. But yeah, I'll definitely say the Kilo is probably better than these three, but like in line with the AAX. And last we have the FFAR. I'm gonna put this in meta. Now the FFAR does the same job as the ASVAL, where it's a pretty good close range sniper support weapon with pretty decent mobility. To be honest, I think the sprinter fire speed and the ADS speed isn't as quick as a gun like the ASVAL for close range, but it's still pretty quick. And the FFAR has a little quirk that not a lot of people know, is that when you're ADS with the FFAR, you actually have more zoomed out FOV than you do with any other gun, which makes the gun feel a lot more cleaner to use, with very, very minimal visual recoil and very little actual recoil. And it having a high fire rate makes it very forgiving for missing shots at close range, and it's honestly probably the best sniper support if it's not the ASVAL. And you know what, I had this originally as top 3, but I'm thinking I'll just put number 1 instead, and we'll make that the number 1 tier from now on. Now, I'm not the biggest stats nerd in the world when it comes to the actual raw numbers of these guns, so if you were to like look objectively at the numbers, these could be shifted around, but I'm basing these strictly off how they feel in game with their 5 attachment builds in their strict roles. For example, Cipher obviously meant to be a long range gun, and the ASVAL meaning to be a sniper support weapon. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Am I cooked or did I cook? And if you guys want to see more tier list videos, please let me know, because I really do want to make this a series on my channel. I think I can honestly make some good content out of this. Oh, and while you're down there, double check you've hit that subscribe button, because I've seen that little subscribe plus button that's just come out recently, and you might want to click that. But yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.